Smaller projects usually do not have the deputy project managers or sub-project managers. As we discussed earlier in the previous slides, that defining the human resource requires the type of the project, the size of the project, and the nature of the work to be done, so that we can choose the right number of human resources in order to complete and manage a project. So, if the project size is basically the smaller one, then usually we do not need the deputy project manager or the sub-project managers. On smaller projects, the project managers might have team leaders. The team leaders reporting directly to the project managers. So, in order to manage the smaller projects, the project manager will choose some team leaders which will report according to the task they are assigned. In addition to defining an organizational structure for a project, it is important to follow a work definition and assignment process. To define the organizational structure for a project, it is essential to have the type of the work to be done and the type of the task which will be performed by different persons. So, we need to follow the work definition and the assignment process to define the organizational structure for a project. Defining and assigning work that consists of 4 steps. In order to define and assign the working elements to the human resources, we need to perform 4 steps. Number 1, finalizing the project requirements. It is important to know that what are the requirements that we need to accomplish in order to complete a project. For a better implementation and resource definition and estimation, it is important to have the right and complete set of requirements. So, before defining and assigning the work, you need to have all the finalized set of project requirements. Number 2, defining how the project will be accomplished. You also need to design such processes or techniques using which you can perform the type of the work in order to accomplish few tasks. So, it is essential to describe that how the work will be done. Next, we have breaking down the work into manageable elements. In order to understand and perform the project activities effectively, it is important to break down the larger project items into smaller manageable units. In order to resolve a problem effectively, we need to break down or divide or decompose the larger units of the software or the project into smaller manageable units. This will help us to perform the task easily and effectively. Number 4, assigning work responsibilities. After finalizing the work that we need to perform and the type of the techniques that we will use in order to complete the set of requirements or the project, and decomposition of the larger units of the software into smaller ones, now this is the time to assign the working responsibilities to several people involved in a project team. According to the skill set and experience and the type of the work, the people will be assigned the task they need to be accomplished. So, In order to define and assign the work, you need to have the complete set of requirements, the techniques following which you can perform the tasks, and the decomposition of the larger problems of a project into smaller ones, and the assignment process of work responsibilities is necessary to conduct. So next we have the work definition and assignment process. We have the steps and the related key outputs of every step. The first step is basically requirements finalization, in which we will finalize or define the set of requirements which will be involved inside our project. So the key output for this particular step will be the finalized project scope baseline and the finalized technical baseline, using which we can define that how we will conduct the type of the work that we need to accomplish. So, defining the set of techniques using which we can define how the work will be done, the outcome for this particular step will be the program or team approach or technical approaches. Using these approaches, we can break down the larger units of the project into smaller ones. So, as an output, we will get the work breakdown structure, which is also called WBS, activities definition. A WBS contains all the activities and their sub-activities and sub-tasks. So the next final step of this particular work definition and assignment process is basically assigning the roles and responsibilities to the type of the work they need to accomplish. So, the output for this particular step will be the organizational breakdown structure, which is also called OBS, or we can say OBS responsibilities. The work definition and assignment process is carried out during the proposal and startup phases of a project. The work definition and the task assignment process is basically conducted at the start of the project phases. In the start of a project, we need to define the type of the work that we need to perform, as well as we need to assign these tasks to the key responsibles in order to the effective completion of the project. Note that the process is iterative, meaning it often takes more than one pass. The important step is basically it's not a linear process. The work definition and the assignment process is not a sequential activity or task. It is basically an iterative process, means it will not take place in one pass. A request for proposal or draft contract often provides the basis for defining and finalizing the work requirements, which are then documented in a final contract and a technical baseline. A document which is called the request for proposal related to the project and a draft. Basically, this particular document will provide the basis for defining and finalizing the work requirements. So basically, this document will be used to define the type of the work to be performed and finalize the work requirements, which are finally documented and written in a document which will be a final contract or a technical baseline. If the project does not require a RFP, a request for proposal, then the internal project charter and the scope statement would provide the basis for defining and finalizing the work requirements. So, according to the nature of the project, if you don't need a RFP, request for proposal, then you can use the internal project charter and the project scope statement in order to provide the basis for defining and finalizing the type of the work you need to accomplish.